YouTubers, Mike Martin's here, Mike Martin's channel. I promised my subscribers that I'd do a tail end video because my trends in the housing market went out really long and I didn't cover New Zealand and Australia housing crisis. If you go to yesterday under housing crisis in my channel, you'll see New Zealand and what's going on with some updated news. And now it's Australia time. Someone sent me this article, this video actually. It's a pretty good one. And let's take a look at it, and I will comment too. And it's my kind of little spin on things. And I've been following the Australian housing market for a long time now. And I got quite a few people ask me, where do you live in Australia? What do you know about Australian housing? What do you... Sorry, I'm just putting up my mic here. What do you know? What do you think you know? You know? Bubbles are bubbles. Finances is finances. Banks are banks. Humans are humans. Trial and error. It's same poop, different pile is what it is. That's what I believe. You know what I'm saying? Coffee tastes good. Anyways, let's take a look at this and see what's going on, guys.
Well, more than 1 million households are now crippled by mortgage stress, according to new figures. Finance editor Ross Greenwood joins us now. Ross, really stressful time.
Mortgage stress is basically how much debt load they have, how much their LTV, loan to value, how much do they owe, and how much are they worth, basically. How much equity is left in their property, how much outside debt, revolving credit do they have outside their mortgages, too. So there's a lot going on. Student loans, let's not forget those. This guy's wearing a tie, so don't trust him. Let's see what he says.
Times for so many families.
It is.
What is the main driver? Is this all about stagnant wages predominantly?
Partly about that. But you know the weird thing about this survey that's come out from Digital Finance Analytics, and they've done a survey of Australian households and basically shown the amount of stress because of mortgages inside those households. And what they discover is it's not just low-income households, it's high-income households, it's all households that could potentially suffer this stress. So let's say, for example, you've got a couple, young couple, got kids who have just bought their first house. If they're in Sydney or Melbourne and have had to pay these record prices that have been around these last little whiles, they've taken on a monster mortgage.
And what it means by monster mortgage is like 2 million. That house right there, 1.5 million bucks, maybe 2 million bucks. And that house in Atlanta, Georgia is probably 200,000 bucks, 300,000 for that house. So that's what I'm trying to say. It's our home's worth what people are paying for. So what happens? Price of everything goes up. Wages stay stagnant. Australian wages, in all fairness, in all the English-speaking countries, have been a lot better than the UK, Canada, and the United States. So Australia's been a bit better, wage-wise. But nothing in comparison. Still 16, 15 times your annual income to buy a house. 17, 20, ridiculous. Not 6 times is the rule of thumb. 6 times. Not 14, 15 times. So let's keep going here.
Chances are that they're probably spending more in their cost of living, including their mortgage, than what's coming through the door. Where's the money coming from? So that is defined.
The money is coming from, and I'll explain to you, the coattails of the equity in their homes. Or they're eating off credit. People with 6-figure incomes are financed to the tits, if you want to say it that way. They're heavily financed, and they're not doing... They keep thinking that they could pay this back, and the only people they're fooling is themselves. So let's continue here.
As mortgage stress, but it could be a low-income family. It could be people who have been on relatively low income, say public servants, nurses, doctors, whatever they might, or rather police officers, whatever, who have gone to the outer suburbs. They've bought a house, and all of a sudden they find themselves in this mortgage stress. So they're saying 956,000 households face mortgage stress.
Let's go back here.
A house, and all of a sudden police officers, whatever, who...
Take a look at this. Mortgage stress Australia-wide. More than 956,000 households affected. That's huge. That's enormous. That's 1/6 of every house, I think. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not too sure. 21,000 households in severe mortgage stress. That right there is enough to tip the scale. Right there, 21,000 in severe mortgage stress, over 55,000 households in risk of 30-day default in the next 12 months. That's phenomenal. People that, because I've been looking at credits for years, different credits, credit scores, gaps on file, inquiries, blah blah blah, time on file. If there's any previous bankruptcies, you can tell immediately. Things like that. Inquiries if the person's credit seeking. This is bad. Just from what I'm seeing here, this is so bad that this should be on every front page, plastered everywhere, because this is a recipe for doom. So let's continue here. Let's continue.
Who have gone to the outer suburbs. They've bought a house, and all of a sudden they find themselves in this mortgage stress. So they're saying 956,000 households face mortgage stress. It's about 30% of all households. 21% of households have severe mortgage distress, and more than 55,000 households face a default because they end up missing a mortgage payment over 30 days. That's how serious this has become.
Yeah, it affects so many people. So what do you do about it? If your wages aren't increasing, cost of living just keeps going through the roof, what do people do?
There's your problem of life, isn't it? Your problem of life is, where does the money come from? So a lot of these families, I'm certain, are trying to find extra work. But we've still got relatively high underemployment in Australia. There's not as much work around. There's not as many hours around the place. So do you go and get a second job? Some people try and do that to work weekend. Or Uber, say, for example. People jump in a car and just try and earn some extra cash. But then on top of that also, where does the wages growth come from? Now, what we know at the moment is lots of jobs are being created in Australia. But the problem is that's still not bringing enough money into many of these households to take the pressure off. So therefore, you say, well, OK, pay rises. Well, OK, where does that money come from? So it really is one of these situations that if interest rates were to start to rise in Australia, these families would be highly vulnerable. And so
interest rates are going to start going up because they need to, how do you say, the quantitative easing or tweaking of interest rates bring down, okay, let's raise the price of homes, but let's tweak the interest rates to make them affordable, because let's get the finance charges low. Well, sure, it works like that. But in the long run, it's kicking the can down the road. Time over time, interest rates go up, get another job to cover the extra shellac, and then another percent goes up. 1% on $1 million, you're looking at $10,000 finance charges, right? That doesn't seem too bad, right? It goes to 2% on $1 million, you're looking at $20,000 in finance charges a year. That's finance. That's just covering your, and that's not including your auto loans, your car loans. You know, it's more. It's actually a little bit more than what I'm quoting, but I'm saying, $3 million. You're looking at like $3 million. You're looking at 43,000, like around that much. Like it's really high to finance, and your property tax and all that crap. So it's pretty bad. It's so bad. And the problem is, the houses they're showing here, and I've lived everywhere. I speak a bunch of languages. And you see that house right there? Okay, before you laugh at me and make fun of me, I wouldn't pay more than 300 grand for that house. That house is worth 300 grand. That's what it's worth. I don't care what you tell me. That is worth 300 grand. Look at my Living the Dream series. Go look on my channel. Go to my channel. Go down to Living the Dream. There's a video, I think it's the fourth one in the carousel of Living the Dream series. That's the house I bought for 260 grand. Not that. My house is like 3 times bigger than that house. And I paid 260 grand. You see what I'm saying? People are location, Mike. You know what? Come and see the view of the mountains around me. Come and see how peaceful it is here. Come and see how this is actually Canada. Everybody here is very, you know, hey, how's it going? Good afternoon. Hey, bud, what's going on? Are we barbecuing? Hey, let me rotor till your backyard for you. I'm like, what do you want? Oh, just give me a cold beer. It's like, that's back again in Canada. You know what I'm saying? After I left the big city. So, in all fairness, even in a big city, that a house like that, in the rural areas, maybe 20 minutes outside, shouldn't be more than 350 grand. People keep laughing at me. Oh, Mike, you're an idiot. 300 grand. It costs $1 million to build a house nowadays. People don't know anything. That house, 300 grand, okay? You get a $300,000 mortgage. Let's say you get 100% LTV. You get loan to value 100%. You put 0 down. Your finance charges will be about $12,000 a year, okay? But then the problem is on 5%, a 4% mortgage. That's normal. But on a 5% mortgage, 6% mortgage, they got to raise rates. They got to stimulate the economy, people. How do you think the economy is going to work? Or they drop the price of oil to $2 a barrel. This is a really crazy thing. Drop the oil to $2 a barrel and raise the price of gas to $5 a liter. That's the way they'll have to do it to subsidize the economy. You know what I'm saying? It's one way or the other. You got to take it and you got to pull and put back. So 300 large, okay, fine. 300 grand, you're laughing at me. That's a $1 million house, Mike. No, it's not. That's not a $1 million house. $1 million house has a helicopter pad in the back, a tennis court, and gated big gates and a wall around and a water fountain when you walk in. Okay? So, in all fairness, 300 grand for that house, okay. Because the average Australian, what they make in their wages, that would be 6 times their annual income. That's how you, take home, I'm saying, not gross. That would be 6 times the average medium family income. 300 grand for that house. That's what it's worth. Whoever paid more than 300,000 for that, I paid $260 for my house because it's worth $260. And before you laugh at me, I have 5 times more bedrooms in that house. I'm not trying to brag. I'm trying to tell you, you pay for what it's worth. So 300 to 350,000 is the average Australian median income family affordability for a house. Now they bought these monster mortgages, like the guy said, $1.2 million for that house probably, or maybe $1 million over asking. Once you got to service that debt, good luck. The percentages go up 1% on $1 million, you're hooped. Never mind a second and third job. You're gonna have to get the kids to work. You know what I'm saying? So that's how bad it's gonna get. So the bottom is falling out. I'm dying to see what's gonna happen. Because I started making these videos 5-6 years ago about this housing crisis and saying, back in the day in Vancouver, the average house was $750,000, $800,000. I'm like, $800,000. This was 10 years ago. For a house, let's say, not this nice, but kind of like needs a bit of repair. $800,000 for a house like that back 10 years ago. And it's like, wait a minute. That house, because I would live in Miami. In Miami, is maybe $225, or West Palm Beach, or Sarasota, Florida, or Tampa, or something. But it's like 200 grand, maybe 190. Oh, but that's American. Okay, add an extra 20,000 on that. Anyways, I'm talking too much. This is what I'm saying. People are paying more than what the properties are worth. People jumped on this fear of buying out in Australia and in all the English-speaking countries, especially people that bought at the wrong time. The people like me that bought hours outside the city and established, we're doing okay. A lot of us are doing okay. My entire street, of the 11 houses in my cul-de-sac, 8 of them are from the city of Vancouver in the last year and a half, 2 years. So it was people fleeing this, and everybody owns. No one rents in the street. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is Australia headed for a massive decapitation of its housing market? I'd like to know in the comments below. Sorry guys, I'm talking way more than I expected. Thanks for watching and comment below.